Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Flexi webinar. My name's Bennett. I'll be the moderator for today. Our presenter is Jason Stone, and Bobby Cagle is joining us as well. They're sales managers at SAi, and they're some of our Flexi experts. And today they'll be demonstrating one of my favorite features in Flexi. That's the Find My Font tool. After the presentation, we'll be able to answer any questions you have about the topic. So feel free to put those questions in the chat and we'll answer as many as we can. We are recording the webinar as always, so if you want to review anything that Jason discusses or share it with someone else, we'll be sending you all the link for that recording this afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. And that's all I've got. So Jason, whenever you're ready, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Bennett. Yeah, my name's Jason Stone. I'm one of our channel sales managers with Flexi Software, and I work with our resellers, selling our software and that. But a little background on myself, I've been in this industry for 25 plus years. I always love telling this story, especially to you as sign shop and graphic owners. I got into this industry when I was going to school at the University of Utah, and my dad and his brother wanted to buy a business. We went through a business broker and we purchased a sign shop called Budget 1 Hour Signs. And if you've been in this industry, you're probably laughing right now at that name, Budget and 1 Hour, all in the name of a sign shop. Probably were not the best things to name a sign shop. You can only imagine the calls we used to get. Also, that was 25 years ago. And when we purchased this sign shop, it was actually pretty cool. The gentleman had these poster making machines where you would buy a crescent board and you would actually have metal fonts and you would typeset everything, use an ink brayer to put ink on there. And then you'd put these crescent boards down and this big roller would come over, and that's how we did posters back there. I'd never seen anything like that in my life, so I always thought that was kind of cool. At that point, we had a GraphTech FC 2100 and Flexi, and that's how we made signs back then. And I really wish I had something like Find My Font, because people would always bring in something, and trying to match up fonts, as you guys all know, is not the easiest thing in the world there. So from there, I went to work for a sign and graphic reseller in Utah and ended up at Flexi. And I've been with Flexi for about 6 years. So I've been on all sorts of fronts, from a sign shop owner like you guys out there making signs and everything using Flexi, and then selling it with new equipment. So that's a little bit on me. I'm going to share my screen here and go over Find My Font. So the first thing is how to actually get Find My Font. So Find My Font is available if you are on the subscription-based service of Flexi. And I've got my screen up here. Can you see, Bobby, can you see my screen here? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so on my screen here, when you launch Flexi, you should see your cloud window over here. If you're like me, most of you guys actually close the cloud window, which you can do with this button right here. So if you don't have your cloud window open, if you open it right here, it gives you some different options over here. Under Cloud Tools, you're going to click on Find My Font. And it's going to bring you here. You're going to hit download, and it's going to download the program here. Usually you're going to see an exe file. And once that's done downloading, if you double click on that and just follow the instructions, it's going to download the Find My Font for you. And once it's done, it is going to ask you for your SAi Cloud Login. So your SAi Cloud Login is where you manage your subscription. So it's going to be that same email address and your password to actually access the Find My Font program. From there, you are going to have, it's going to download an icon very similar to the Flexi and Production Manager icons. It's a little magnifying glass with a little F in it. And when you click on that, this is what you're going to see. This is the Find My Font program here. So it is a separate program from Flexi. And again, it's the little eyeglass with the F on there. And once we get into the program here, there's a bunch of things that we can do. So first thing I'm going to show you is if you browse your fonts, these are the fonts that you have loaded on your computer. And this is important right here because any of these fonts in green are fonts that you have loaded on your system. So when we actually get into it and we start looking for fonts, it's going to look at what you have on your system, and then it's going to show you other matches and show you how you can get those fonts. So to note here, when you're working with fonts with Flexi, any font that you load into your computer is automatically going to show up in Flexi. With older versions of Flexi, it used to be that you had to actually point Flexi to those fonts. But nice thing about Flexi lately is you just add those fonts into your computer and they show up in Flexi. So this is your fonts on your computer. Now we're going to get back to the fun stuff, the important part of actually using Find My Font and identifying fonts. And there's two ways that you can use this here. You can import a picture into Find My Font, or you can actually take a screen capture and use that. We're going to go over both of those here. But first, we're going to bring in an image. So up here is my open. So we're going to click on this. And you're going to direct it to whatever you want to identify as a font. So we're going to start off really easy here. I'm going to open up this image, and we've got 3 fonts on here. So if you have something like this, real basically, to go over Find My Font, you're going to select the selection tool here. And all you're going to do is you're going to select several characters here. I'm going to select all 5 of these. Then you're going to come down to number 2 right here, and you're going to type in what matches here. So we're going to type in a capital A, lowercase R-I-A-L, kind of matching up what I've got here. And you'll notice on here the little check boxes here. If I accidentally selected something and I didn't want to do that, if I select this, it's actually going to get rid of this here. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go back through the process again. So we're going to select my selection tool. We're going to select 5 different characters here. And then we're going to type it in here, making sure that it's we're doing uppercase and lowercase like we've got below. And then from here, there's a couple selections over here. If you only wanted to search for the fonts you have on your computer, you're just going to select local search. If you want to search online, you can select that as well. So I'm just going to do a local search here first. You're going to click Match Fonts, and it's going to go in order by the best matching here. So I've got 94.4% match on Arial Bold, which I have loaded in my computer. It gives you a little preview of that font here. So if you wanted to take a look here and do this, you're more than welcome. But I typically am going to go with the highest matching one and identify that as my font there. So we're going to go over it once more again here. We're going to go down to the comic here. So again, you're just selecting the selection tool here. Oops, we're going to get rid of all these first that we had selected over there. And then we're going to select our characters here. You can see them placing down in the bottom there. We're going to type in a capital C-O-M-I-C. And then this time we're going to do an online search as well. So I'm going to select online. We're going to pick on the matching fonts here. And you can see that it's going to start bringing up some fonts that I do not have loaded on my computer. So again, the green one highlighted here is a font that I do have on my computer. So that one isn't the best match, but it's pretty close on there with 90.5. We could come up here and select this. And you can see down here in the preview that these really aren't all that different. So I would select the Comic Sans here since I've already got that on my computer. So we could go ahead and identify that as the closest matching font on there. Oops. Let me get back here. Sorry about that. So if we did want to choose one of these fonts that we didn't have on my computer and you wanted to reach out and find that font, all you have to do is double click on the font here. And it's going to come up and give you some information about that font that we don't have on our computer. So it'll show you more information on it here. We can select down here on character set. It's going to show you all the different characters within that font. And then it's going to give you some more information on the font sources here. So if you wanted to go out and get this font, you can see right here that it says you can buy this font from myfonts.com. So you can select that on there and go through the process of getting this font if you don't have it already on your computer there. We're going to go back and jump into the program here. We're going to bring up something a little more exciting than some simple text here that you probably all could identify just from looking at it there. So I'm going to open up a different picture here. We're going to jump into an actual picture of a sign that we want to identify the font on. So I've got this sign right here for Whistler. We're going to open this up. And it's kind of the same thing here. The only difference is that we have this as an actual image with some graphics and different things on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the font selection tool here. And we're going to select our fonts on here. So you don't have to select everything in here. You just want to select some of the different characters on there. And then we're going to come in here and type in the font or the characters that we have here. Actually, I'm going to go back and show you what happens if we type in something than what we have different on there. Or if you put in too many characters, it's going to give you a warning saying that you only selected 4 characters here, but you typed in font or 5 on here. So we're going to go back and take the Y off of here. We're going to go back to match my font. And you can see on this one that there's a lot of fonts on here that I don't have on my computer that match up on here. So the closest one I have that matches this one is only 86.3% match on here. So this is a good decision you're going to have to make at that point, whether you want to use that font or if you want to come up here and maybe download and find Franklin Gothic and load that onto your computer. So again, if you didn't have this font, if you double click on this, it's going to take you to find my font. It's going to give you more information on it. You could select the character set there. And then you could go to myfonts.com and download and purchase that font. With fonts, it's kind of, some are available for purchase out there, some are free out there. So it just depends on the font that you pick and how to get that font. So now this one again was pretty simple. Everything was straightforward there. We didn't have any distortion or anything on the sign. So we're going to get into a little bit on if we have something that has a little bit of distortion, how are we going to manage something like that? So now we're going to go in here, and this time we are going to pick a sign that has a little bit of a distortion, quite a bit of distortion on here. So if we try to identify these just the way it is on there with the distortion on there, it's probably not going to do the best job of identifying that font. So the first thing we want to do is we want to acknowledge the distortion of the sign here. So this tool right here, if we select this, it brings up a grid, and there's several different things we can do on here. We can turn on and off a grid to help us kind of line up things. I'm going to leave that on there because I like that. There's two other options on here that we're going to get into. We're going to do the fixed perspective first. So if I select this box, and then if I drag these little corners, you can see that it's not distorting it. I can kind of get it to the size of my sign here. And then if we hold the shift key down and grab these points, then I can actually bring in the distortion here. So I'm going to match the four corners of the sign here. And once I've got the distortion matched up to my image here, when I hit the enter key, you can see what it does. It kind of changes the perspective and makes it more in line here. So now we can come in, we could zoom in here. And then we can go through the process of identifying these fonts on here. So if I go back to my letter selection tool, I can select a few of the characters here. Oops. So I'm going to select the D, the S, the R, and maybe an N here. So then again, I'm going to come down to this little spot right here. I'm going to type in a capital D, S, R, and N. And then we're going to click on Match Fonts, and it's going to go through the process of finding our fonts here. So again, we can select on these, see a different preview of those fonts, and select what most likely is going to match on there. You can see that the font I have on my computer kind of doesn't, I mean, it's close, it doesn't really match up. So obviously, you're probably going to pick the Lithos Pro on here. And again, you could double click on that and go back and find that font. So then we could go down here. I'm not sure if this font's the same as my capital letters here. So we're going to come down here. We're going to go back to the sign, to my selection. I'm going to get rid of these ones that I had put in here already. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to select capital T. We're going to select an A, an X. So a couple things happen right here that we can talk about. First off is you can see that it's kind of fuzzy on here. So there's a tool that we can use to actually maybe brighten this up a little bit so it's not so fuzzy and maybe get a better match to the font. So with that, when we go back here, this is where this enlarge button is going to come into play. So if I come in here this time to my grid, I'm going to put it over the font here. This time I'm going to do enlarge instead of the fixed perspective. And when I hit enter here and then zoom in here, it kind of smooths out everything. It doesn't actually make it better, but it kind of smooths it out and makes it a little bit better. So then we can come in here and try and match the font here. So the other thing that happens here is on this one, you can see that when I select my E or my X here, that it combines the E, X, and the T. So we do have a way that we can do it so it doesn't select all three of those characters at once. This little scissor tool right here, if I come in and put a division between these here, so I'm going to draw a line in between those with the scissor tools. Now when I come up in here and select my E, my X, and my T, you can see that it's not connecting them on there. And we're going to do another example here where we have cursive letters, where this really helps you out too as well. So again, you'd come in here and you type your characters, go over to the match font, and then we could go through and take a look at the best matching fonts on here. So we're going to go back.
Pretty poor image, Jason. So I think it did a great job in trying to even getting close to matching those.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I mean, it's difficult because it is a pretty fuzzy image on there. So obviously the better image that you have, the better that it's going to do on there. And then there also is a tolerance selection here. We're going to get into a little bit of another example of a sign that's kind of a lower resolution, a soft image, and we're going to show you how to work with that. So I'm going to open up a different one here. This time I'm going to open up this image right here, and you can see everything kind of blends in together here. So this is where this selection tolerance tool comes in. I'm going to go to the extremes and kind of show you what happens here. So on this one, the first thing that I would do, this one is just rotated. It's not a distortion on there. So what we can do is we can actually take this tool right here, our baseline rotation tool. And if I select this tool and select one end here, and then kind of match it up to the rotation on the sign here, when I let go of it, the button, it kind of straightens it out for me on here. So then when I go up to my tolerance tool here, I'm going to go to the extreme. If I select here and I try and select the N on here, you can see it's selecting the whole starburst on there. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go to the other end of the extreme here, and you can see that it only selected a small portion, a pixel within here. So that's obviously not what we want. So I'm going to bring this down towards the middle a little bit. And then you can see when I select my N, my E, and my W there, that we get a better selection. And I'm going to put my, oops. So we're going to go in and type in the letters here and go to match fonts. And it's going to bring up our matching fonts on here. So we're going to go, let's go into another example here. On some different images. We'll get in and show you how to deal with something that's a brush script where maybe the letters are connected on here. So on this sign, if I select, I'm going to bring this on here. And on my brush script here, if we needed to select this, you can see if we go to the selection tool on here and select this, it's going to select all of those characters on there. And we don't want to do that. So we're going to go to my scissors tool here. We're going to put breaks in between these. I'm going to do the best where I think these breaks are going to be. Now when I come in here to the selection tool, we can select here. So we can see that on the P here, that it kind of, maybe I didn't pick the best point on there because it's kind of identifying this little area on here. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go to my tool again. And I'm going to put a break a little bit differently on the P here, and we're going to see what happens now. So the P and the T. So now I've got my P on there. So I'm going to come in and type my S, C, R, T, and P. I'm going to go over to match fonts. And we all kind of knew that brush script was going to be the matching font on there. And you can see that an 85.2% match on there. I'm going to go down here. I've got a different brush script that I've got loaded on my computer. So I could go ahead and select that. That would be my best match on there. So another question that always comes up too is if we have something on an arc on here, we can work with this as well. I'm going to get rid of everything I have selected here. Oops. And what I'm going to do on this one is what I would do is I would come in here to my baseline rotation tool, and I would line it up to each letter on here. So I'm going to go into the M. I'm going to come into my tool on here. I'm going to match this up to the A on here. Then I'm going to come back and select the A. We'll come over here and select a capital A on here. And then maybe we'll come back and do a C on here. Actually, let's do the P. So then I've got my images on here. So I'm going to type a lowercase m, a, capital A, and a P. We're going to go over and click on our match fonts here. And that's how I would work on anything that's got text on an arc like that. So you see you've got all sorts of different tools that you can work with here. So you just kind of take it by case basis with whatever image you've got that you're trying to match a font on. You've got all these different tools available to you. So everything that we've done here is an image that I had on my computer and then I just imported in. If you were looking for something and you had you were doing an online search, I am going to, let me go to a web page here. I'm just going to type in signs and look for different images of signs. So if we wanted to get this sign right here and maybe find the font on this, what we can do here is we come back in here, and instead of the import from a file here, I've got my image capture tool right here. So if I select this, you can see it brings in an image of the web page that I was on. So we just want to zoom into this little sign right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to my image correction and deformation tool. I'm going to go to enlarge, and I'm going to zoom into this sign right here. I'm going to hit the enter key, and then I can zoom in to this sign. So from here, I could come in here, and then it's the same tools over and over again. So we're going to come in, we're going to select a couple unique characters here, Y and R, maybe an S and an E here. So we're going to type in Y, R, S, E, and then come over to my match fonts on here. So these are kind of all the basic tools on here for find my font. It's just kind of figuring out exactly what type of image and applying the right tools on here. Bobby, do you have anything else that I've missed on here that we should go over?
Well, there are a couple of questions online. One was asking the file types that you can bring in. Making sure, can you show what all file types are able to be imported in?
Yeah, so if we go in here,
looks like just about anything.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good question. So it's showing images, and then it's got bitmaps, GIF, JPEGs, TIFFs. You know what? It's kind of, let's try something here, because it doesn't, it looks like they're all raster images and no vector, all the PNGs on there. We could
I don't see a PDF on there actually.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a PDF on my computer here. Let's see if I have a PDF. That's a good question. You stumped us just a little bit there.
And then while you're looking for that, they were asking about if it will use search font management programs such as Extensus Suitcase. And I don't believe it does. I mean, I think it only uses certain search engines online that it can find. So I don't know if it's using if it will go into an actual program and search for the fonts in there. But if you load a TrueType font onto your system, if that font gets installed onto your computer, then it will find it on there. Yes, you can scan a letterhead. So if you had pulled in a letterhead, or either scanned it, had it as a JPEG bitmap, you would be able to use the letterhead to search the font, just like we're bringing the image in. So now, is that a PDF?
Yeah, this was a PDF, so that imported just fine into there. So my best suggestion on there is to give it a try. If it works, it works. If not, then it's not going to bring in that file. But I think it'll bring in pretty much anything there.
Question about Gerber fonts. I don't believe it's going to do Gerber fonts, because those are only for the Omega software, if I'm correct on that. So I'm pretty sure it will not search Omega fonts.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would tend to agree with you on that, Bobby, because the way that those Gerber fonts are handled and stored within the Omega program.
Yeah. So some of the questions of the programs that you all are asking if we can use are things Jason and I don't really have access to those, and so it's really going to be a trial and error on your part on some of these things. Yeah, I understand the suitcase keeps those fonts loaded. Again, you're going to have to bring in the font program and see if it actually goes into that program for you and searches those fonts. I understand what you're saying. It does. It kind of keeps the fonts from having to be downloaded, but possibly if it can find that font online and you know the name of it, then you can use the suitcase then to search that font in your system to be able to find it, is what I would think. And it says, can I use Adobe CS3 files? I doubt you can bring an Adobe file directly into the program. You would probably have to export it out as a JPEG or a TIFF to be able to bring that into this system.
Yeah, I'm going to try saving. I'll try saving something as an AI file here and see what happens on it. So let's bring this in. We're going to export this as an AI file. Any more questions there, Bobby?
That's it for now. We'll see if anybody else has something between now and when we get finished here.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't look like it'll bring in an AI file on there.
So you're going to have to export it out as an EPS or a bitmap or a TIFF file or something like that. And then once you do that, I believe it'll let you bring that in and you can do that.
Yeah, so I just saved this as a TIFF. So if I come in here, then yeah, so
there it is. So that should be fairly easily done out of Illustrator or Corel or any other programs like that as also.
Yeah, if you run into trouble with anything, bringing it into here, you can always do that, because it really works well with raster files. It's really kind of what the program was designed for, is raster images and identifying those fonts pictures from there. So.
All right, so the question is, can you open the AI in Flexi and then take a screenshot of it?
No, yeah, you know what? That's a great idea there. So, Abby, yeah, definitely you could import an image into there and then do your screen capture on there. So you could, that's actually really good. You could do that. You wouldn't have to even bring it into Flexi. So if you had something in Illustrator, you could just do your screen capture of it in there if you've got it open in there. So that would be my suggestion on that then.
Yep. Yeah, you can either open it in Illustrator and or Flexi and just take a screenshot of it at that point, and it'll work. So you don't even have to bring it into Flexi like you were saying. So yeah, that was a tip from Brian, who said he's been doing that for years that way.
Oh yeah, no, great. Thank you, Brian, for that. We appreciate that. So,
any other questions that you guys have out there? I mean, it's a pretty basic program. I mean, I'm not going to say basic, but that's really the main things that you're going to be doing with this program, and just knowing how to kind of manipulate some of the files to get the letters in there so that you can identify them.
Yeah, thanks guys for answering those questions, Jason and Bobby and Brian. Shout out to Brian for answering that one. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today because we're not seeing any more questions coming in. So thank you all for joining us for today's Flexi webinar. Our next Flexi webinar will be about working with text in Flexi. So it'll kind of be a continuation of this, and that'll be on February 8th, and we hope to see you there. Make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter so you won't miss out on any webinar announcements. You can sign up for that on our website. Thank you again for attending.